long continued observation of the habits of animals and plants, it at once struck me that under these circumstances, favorable variations would tend to be preserved, and unfavorable ones to be destroyed. The result of this would be the formation of new species. Here then I had at last got a theory by which to err. The point being that Darwin's conception of a theory of natural selection was not necessarily original to him, but there was influence of his grandfather and then the influence of other writers around his time. Now let's summarize some of Darwin's key hypotheses. What did he present in his writings? Some of the key things here. In the book on the origin of species, which Darwin himself says was one long argument to disprove the existence of a creator. Interestingly, the writing on the origin of species, which presented a theory of descent with modification through variation and selection, was really a theological argument, assimilating all the natural facts which he did gather and did collect on his journey. So, it was not necessarily a scientific document, so to speak, but an argument against creation. A historian, Neil Gillespie, noted in 1979 that Darwin's theological defense of descent with modification rested on his conception of the Creator. Not only did his book have numerous references to such a Creator, but theological arguments based on such conception had importance in the overall logic presented in that book. Here's how he concludes his On the Origin of Species. Darwin says, "There is grandeur in this view of life, with its several powers, having been originally breathed into a few forms or into one." So he assumes that life was originally breathed into one or a few forms. That while this planet has gone cycling on according to the fiction of gravity, from so simple a beginning, endless forms, most beautiful and most wonderful, have been and are being evolved. In his book on the descent of man and selection in relation to sex, published in 1871, Darwin set out evidence from numerous sources that humans are animals, showing continuity of physical and mental attributes between animals and humans. And he presented sexual selection to examine impractical animal features, as well as human evolution of culture, differences between sexes, and physical, cultural, and racial characteristics, while all the while emphasizing that all humans are one species. In his 1872 book, The Expression of the Emotions in Man and Animals, he discussed the evolution of the human psychology, of the human psyche, and its continuity in behavior of animals. So relating animals to man at a psychological level. His conclusion is this, that man, with all his noble qualities, with sympathy which feels for the most base, with benevolence which extends not only to other men but to the humblest living creature, with his godlike intellect which has penetrated movements and constitution of the solar system, with all these exalted powers, man still bears in his bodily frame the indelible stamp of his lowly origin. In his closing years in 1879, when asked about his religious views, Darwin made it clear that he was not an atheist, he did not deny the existence of God, but he said that agnostic would be the more correct description of my state of mind. I also want to bring to our attention that prior to Darwin's coming public with this theory of man's natural descent, that there were several ancient philosophers, historical philosophies, prior to Darwin, that in various forms proposed the process of evolution and tried to deny the existence of God. For example, in the 6th century BC, there was a Greek philosopher Anaximander who asserted that living things emerged from formless matter that underwent transmutations to produce a wide variety of forms. And many people who espouse the theory of evolution consider him as the original or the originator of evolutionary thoughts. In the 5th century BC, there were other Greek philosophers who came up with different ideas that the chance interplay of earth, air, fire, and water produced disconnected organs and limbs, and these wandered about aimlessly until they all connected together to make whole creatures. In the 5th century, there were other Greek philosophers who advocated materialistic philosophy by denying the existence of God and said there's only atoms and void or emptiness. In the 1st century BC, there was a Roman philosopher, Raichur, who actually proposed a theory of the survival of the fittest, which is remarkably similar to what Darwin wrote about. So, this is for us to understand that there was a lot of similar thought proposed before Darwin wrote his book on the origin of the species. So now I want to take some time just to make a very critical assessment of Darwin's primary propositions, 4 main things that he proposed in his writings. So was he right, after all, when we look back and assess the things he proposed? The first thing that Darwin proposed had to do with the geographic distribution of species. Now, as you and I understand the creation account, when after God had created the earth and separated the waters from the air, God spoke and the whole earth responded. When God said, let there be plants, plants bloomed all over the earth. When God said, let the waters bring forth creatures, sea creatures, all water, everywhere, brought forth. So, according to the creation account, all of creation bloomed, blossomed everywhere, instantaneously, at the same moment. But here's what Darwin this is what Darwin tried to disprove in his argument of the geographic distribution of species. What he said was this, that from his findings, it is highly probable, and I will kind of read some quotes a little later, I'm just summarizing what he said. From his finding, it is